This is foundational stuff. Salt of the earth, light of the world. This is foundational. Salt of the earth. I have known a lot of people in my life that I consider to be salt of the earth. And I always struggle to try to describe what a salt of the earth person is. That's what I'm going to share my struggle with you as my message this morning. Salt of the earth, it can be hard to describe, but you know it when you experience it. You know a salt of the earth person. I know you know some. And you know it when you see it. Salt was an extremely valuable commodity in the time of Jesus. Many of you know this. Our English word salary originates from the Latin word salarium, which comes from a root meaning salt. Roman soldiers in the time of Jesus were often given a specific allowance, a salarium, to purchase salt, which was necessary for preserving food and often considered a form of white gold. In those days, not a lot of refrigerators around, not a lot of freezers around. You need salt. Bless you. No charge. In Jesus' time, sharing a meal together was often called sharing salt. Sharing salt. And expressed a binding relationship, purification, seasoning, and preservative. Sharing salt with someone was serious business and needed to be taken very seriously. It was not just eating, it was creating a relationship, which is why Jesus got into trouble for sharing salt with people like tax collectors and worse. Sharing salt. I want to try to communicate what salt of the earth is. Maybe we can start with what salt of the earth is not. I got this text Friday from my future daughter-in-law. My son and future daughter-in-law, they want to be married in this church. They have a date set for May of 27. These kids and their long engagements, I don't get it, but it's their call. And they want to be married in this church. And I got this text from my future daughter-in-law Friday. So, as I'm sure you've heard, and I hadn't, the President of the United States was flagrantly and unambiguously racist this morning on social media. This is what salt of the earth is not. Bree goes on, too many people don't and won't know that, as the post has since been deleted. I take pride in that I can always count on you, me, to do the right thing. That's the part of the text that bothers me a little. I take pride in that I can always count on you to do the right thing. You have spoken on the horrors before. If you are preaching on Sunday, your black future daughter-in-law expects you to get in that pulpit and condemn, condemn, condemn. Racism and bigotry is not salt of the earth. The power of sitting down and sharing a meal with someone, this power still exists. Eating together is intimate. One of my seminary professors who taught us about the sacrament of Holy Communion said that sitting down and eating with someone is the second most physically intimate thing you can do with another human being. So, what is salt of the earth? Salt of the earth is John Lewis. John Lewis' journey into full-time movement activism began in 1960 when he helped lead a wave of sit-ins. They could have called them salt inns at lunch counters in Nashville, Tennessee. John Lewis, the late John Lewis at the time, was barely 20 years old. In the winter of 1960, our nation was mesmerized by a group of young black college students in Nashville, Tennessee, who appeared at a segregated lunch counter one Saturday afternoon and asked to be served. They were asked to be served salt. All that spring, they filled the jails in the nation with their freedom songs, sparking similar actions and demonstrations across the South. Although an earlier sit-in had been held in Greensboro, North Carolina on February 1st, 1960, it was the small group of Nashville students who gave impetus to the concept of nonviolent direct action and who continued through the years to provide critical leadership. I'm reading to you from an interview that John Lewis gave in 1980. Quote, "The movement during that period, in my estimation, was the finest example, if you want to refer to it, of Christian love. Sometimes we'd sit for 2 or 3 hours, we'd have our books, and we'd just sit quietly doing our homework. Then someone might walk up and hit us or spit on us or do something, but it was very quiet. When I look back on that particular period in Nashville, the discipline, the dedication, and the commitment to nonviolence was unbelievable. 2 or 3 times a week we would go in and sit in, and then one particular day, it must have been leap year because I think it was February 29th, 1960, a Saturday morning, we met at church, and Will Campbell came to the meeting to tell us he had received information that the police officials would have us arrested and would let all types of violence occur. My friend Kelly came to the church and warned that there would be violence, but we said we had to go. We were afraid, but we felt that we had to bear witness. So Jim Lawson and some of the others were very sympathetic and felt that if we wanted to go, that we should. You know, salt of the earth is hard to define, but you know it when you see it." Lewis goes on, "It was my responsibility to print some rules, some do's and don'ts. What people were supposed to do: sit up straight, don't look back, if someone hits you, smile. Things like that. At the end, it said something like, remember the teachings of Jesus Christ, Gandhi, and Martin Luther King. May God be with you." And we gave them all to those people that Saturday morning. Woolworth's was the place where the first violence occurred. A young student at Fisk, Maxine Walker, and an exchange student named Paul LaPrade were sitting at the counter at Woolworth's. The young white man came up and hit Paul and knocked him down and hit the young lady. Then all types of violence started, pulling people, pushing people over the counter, throwing things, grinding out cigarettes on people, pouring ketchup in their hair, that type of thing. Then the cops moved in and started arresting people. That was my first time, the first time for most of us to be arrested. I just felt that it was like being involved in a holy crusade. I really felt that what we were doing was so in keeping with the Christian faith. You know, we didn't welcome arrest. We didn't want to go to jail. But it became a moving spirit. Something just sort of came over us and consumed us. And we started singing, "We Shall Overcome." And later we started singing, "Paul and Silas bound in jail had no money for their bail." It became a religious experience that took place in jail. I remember that very, very well, the first arrest. Even after we were taken to jail, there was a spirit there, something you witnessed, I guess, during a Southern Baptist revival. I think our faith was renewed. Jail, in a sense, became the way toward conversion, was the act of baptism. Jail as baptism. I was afraid. I was afraid. You know, during the workshops in Nashville, we never thought or heard that much about what would happen to us personally or individually, and we never really directed our feelings of hostility toward the opposition. I think most of the people that came through those early days saw the opposition and saw ourselves really the participants in the movement as victims of the system, and we wanted to change the system. People just felt something was wrong. The underlying philosophy was the whole idea of redemptive suffering. Suffering that in itself might help to redeem the larger society. We talked in terms of our goal, our dream, being the beloved community, the open society, the society that is at peace with itself, where you forget about race and color and see people as human beings. We dealt a great deal with the question of the means and ends. If we wanted to create the beloved community, then the methods must be those of love and peace. So somehow the ends must be caught up in the means, and I think people understood that. In the black church, ministers have a tendency to compare the plight of black people with the children of Israel. I think we saw ourselves as being caught up in some type of holy crusade with the music and the mass meetings, with nothing on our side but a dream and just daring faith. I tell you the truth, I really felt that I was part of a crusade. There was something righteous about it. I really felt that the people who were in the movement, and this may be short-sighted and biased on my part, were the only truly integrated society, and in a sense, the only true church in America. Because you had a community of believers, people who really believed. They were committed to a faith. I was wrong, I think, to feel that way, because you shouldn't become so definitive as to believe that you have an edge on the truth. I think you have to stay open. But you know, in the process of growing and developing, people go through different experiences. That's salt of the earth. Salt of the earth, this is me now, salt of the earth can give flavor to a distasteful world. And what about the light of the world? Salt of the earth people are the light of the world. It's a hard thing to define. And you know it when you see it in people like John Lewis. Amen?